Right now this is mostly just a bare patch of ground, but by the end of this video it will be transformed into the beginnings of a truly thriving fruit and vegetable garden. I'm going to show you the exact plan I'll be using step by step so you can follow the same blueprint in your garden. Whether you're starting afresh, reclaiming a neglected corner or building your dream garden, this is where it all begins. So first things first, before doing so much as picking up a spade or even touching a plant, we need to see what we've got here. We need it to be organised, and to help with that we need good paths. That'll be the backbone of any garden. Now in my situation, I'm going to take my inspiration from a classic kitchen garden which often has just two intersecting paths creating a kind of cross formation. I've got this run of grass coming up here which I'll just carry on up there eventually, and then I've got this lovely axis here coming along here and then running down here. So I've got a natural kind of cross shape here giving me four distinct planting areas. So the first job I'm going to do is formally mark out the paths. So I've got my tent pegs and I'm going to tie on some brightly coloured twine. Cheap and cheerful, but it stands out so we can get a good feel for the space and really begin to see the plan develop. Now paths really need to be a minimum of 3 foot apart to get a wheelbarrow up, or comfortably up anyway. You can go a bit narrower, probably about there is good. I want these paths to be nice and wide to retain that sense of space once everything's growing around it. And I'm going to have flowers, that's the plan, flanking the paths as much as possible to make this a really attractive and productive space. Don't need to be too perfect, but just try and get it so you get a nice line of sight, because it'll just look pleasingly all in order. Look at that, that does look good. So I've got my string lines in and we can clearly see this axis of paths taking shape now. This is the exciting moment where we begin to see that vision, that structure come to fruition. So we've got 2 beds in front of me here that are completely empty. They're going to be vegetables, but behind me these beds have already got some fruit in, so we're kind of halfway there. And I would say if you have mature plants that you can bring into your design, definitely do, because it will give you that head start. So we've got 2 things in the path here. This beautiful euphorbia here, isn't it stunning? I'm not going to get rid of that. I'm going to dig it up and relocate it into the perennial bed over there. And then this sundial, which has been sitting in the shade actually, finally come into the sunshine. Now some shrubbery's been removed and I'm going to shunt it along so it's right at the end of this path here. I think here would be a lovely line of sight up to it. The area here is pretty clear actually, and there aren't that many weeds, but if you have got a weedy patch and you need to clear the ground, you can either go at it or, perhaps a bit easier, lay down lots of cardboard and then put organic matter on top of that deep enough so the weeds just die off underneath. For me, I've just got this grass that's creeping in here to where our paths will be, so I'm just got a sharp, trusty old spade. I'm going to skim it off and tighten up these edges. Now, I want to get a nice crisp edge here, so I'm going to just basically cut away and dig along the string line here, using that as my guide to create a bit of a indent like that. If you've got something called a half moon, which is, as it sounds, just a sort of semicircle, it makes a lot of a neater job, a lot neater, but I don't actually have that, and a spade does a job just as well. Good exercise this, isn't it? Don't get a good garden without a little bit of hard graft. And plenty of enthusiasm, of course. Well, there's the first of my edged lines, and I need to do some more tidying up with the grass, but I'll be doing the same along all of the string lines here. And you can already see that's creating a really pleasing edge to me. That just looks fantastic. Now my paths, I'm going to keep to grass because the lawnmower in my garden lives in there, so I need to wheel it out, go along here and out to the rest of the garden, and when I come back I can do the other side just in 2 passes. So it makes sense, and the grass is already here. You might prefer to use a different path material such as wood chips because it's nice and clean underfoot and doesn't need mowing, so use whatever makes sense to you in your garden. Now about these fruit bushes here, these are currants and I've got a gooseberry over there. They really will help to soften this whole area, and it's lovely kind of dappled shade, so this is a perfect spot for them. So this is something to consider with your garden, along the paths, having something that will break up the harsh kind of sides of the paths and make it all softer and more kind of like lived in and comfortable. And being distracted by this lovely little blackbird here who is pecking along the edges there of where I've just dug to create the edging, and quite adorable, bringing life to the garden already. What I'm going to do with all the grass that I've skimmed off is remove it out of the way to stack up with something rather special to make more compost, and I'll show you what that is in a sec. I'm going to layer the offcuts of grass there with this stuff, chicken manure bedding. It smells pretty rank, to be honest with you. It's a mixture of sawdust chippings, the bedding, feathers even, and of course lots of magic poo. That's the stuff we're really interested in. It's got a good balance of nitrogen and carbon in here, and there with the grass it's going to make my own beautiful compost. Let's get this piled up and start making an investment for the future. The next step is to look at our soil, and this is a really important step. This border behind me here, this bed and one over there, originally had shrubs growing in it, very overgrown, gnarly old shrubs, and they would have taken quite a lot out of the soil. All of the remains of the shrub have been removed and the stumps have all been ground down, but we're left with what will be quite poor soil. Shrubs will have been quite hungry over the years and really depleted the soil, so we need to put something back. Now you might be starting with an area that is just very weedy, in which case you can just cover it all over with something like either plastic and let the weeds die off underneath that, or my choice and way of doing things is to lay a couple of layers of cardboard over the surface and then put your organic matter on over the top of that. If it's thick enough, the weeds underneath will die off and the cardboard will eventually rot down and you'll just have beautiful soil by the end of it. And I will link to our video on that, by the way, in the description below. But first, let's add some beautiful compost to this stuff here. I've chosen to add this stuff, municipal waste compost, just sort of green waste. It's made from old garden waste and perhaps kitchen scraps as well, bought in from the local council. Now this stuff isn't bad and it's relatively affordable, but do use whatever you can get your hands on. Garden compost, stuff you've made in your own garden, is always going to be the best and the most nutrient dense. But if you've got a lot of area to cover and it's a new garden, well, look out for something like this. You might even be able to pick it up for free if you go and collect it. I've got to shift this lot. And would you look at that, these beds are already looking rich, dark and ready for business. This is one of the most satisfying parts for me actually, raking this stuff out and seeing the shape and definition of these beds come to life. And at this stage it's so clean and pure, you could kind of eat your dinner off this, don't you think? Now, one thing I recommend to anyone starting a new garden or indeed tweaking an existing one is to put your plans together in some sort of layout or garden plan. So let me show you what I mean. So what we need to do is set ourselves up a plan that matches the layout of what we've just created. So what I've done is I've put in the surrounding shrubbery here for context so we know what's around us. And I'm now going to drop in our 2 grass paths. We can tidy it up in a bit. There we go. Splendid. And now let's add in the fruit bushes that are already here. And now comes the really exciting part, dropping in all of the plants into our plan that we are about to plant. Now, obviously the best time to do this is in advance of planting, but we're going to do it as we move along. And the whole reason for planning out what you're going to be planting in the ground is to see exactly how much you can grow in the space you have. Planting time, hurrah! Now it's early summer here and it's a really great time to either plant or indeed still sow plenty of vegetables. The days are beautiful and bright, the soil is warm, and there's still lots of the growing season still stretching far ahead of us. What a fab time to be alive. Tomatoes are real sun lovers, and they're a great vegetable to get in the ground in early summer. Now, what I've gone for are blight resistant varieties. That means they won't get the disease, or if they do get it, they should struggle on through, and just to make my life a bit easier. And I've also gone for bush varieties, which are just shorter and require a lot less pruning and staking and so on. Might as well make life a bit easier. So I'm spacing them roughly 18 inches or 45 centimetres apart like that. Get them laid out first, and now we can plant. So this is obviously fresh compost, but I'm digging my planting hole, and then I'm just going to add, just because I've got it, a little handful of this volcanic rock dust. I think it's also called azimite. Not essential, but I'll just give them a little bit of a boost that way. And I'm planting my tomatoes a little bit deeper than they are, because they can produce roots along their stem and anchor them in really nicely, so they get as much goodness from the compost here as possible. Next on our list is squash, lovely winter squash, some butternuts here and some blue hubbards that I've grown, and these need lots and lots of space. They're small plants now, but gosh, these guys in about 3 or 4 weeks will be sprawled and covering this entire area here, so we need to give them a good amount of room, at least 1 metre or just over 3 foot, I'd say, between each plant. So there's no harm in spacing them like that. That's about right. Now, this is, as I say, a lovely sunny spot, and these guys are going to really thrive here and respond beautifully, and it's going to be quite dramatic, I think. Now, what I'm going to do actually is just creating these little mounds here. So I'm going to create a little reservoir around each squash plant, which will make it a lot easier to water, because it'll trap the moisture in, and that will really help on this quite steep slope we've got here. Lovely. Well, it's shaping up to be a pretty warm day, so before I plant more stuff, I'm going to go ahead and water what I've already planted, just to keep things refreshed. And this will help also settle the soil in around our plants, so they're kind of all bedded in beautifully. It's all beginning to come together, isn't it? I love it. Right, now I'm going to add a bit of height to this area of the garden by putting some TP canes in like this to grow some climbing beans up. Now I'm using a lid here as a guide, so I get a nice pleasing circle, and I start with putting in my 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 and 12 o'clock canes, so one in each corner. Not that a TP has a corner, of course, but you know what I mean. So let's take stock of what we've done and add the plants we've planted so far onto our plan. Of course, not every part of the garden is going to be basking in sunshine for all of the day. This area here is pretty shaded. It gets some sunshine, but not till later in the afternoon. You can see it creeping in now. So I'm going to have to plant things that can cope with being in part shade. So that includes some lovely leafy greens. I've got some lettuce here, some red and some green lettuce to put in a checkerboard formation. Very pretty. I've got some chard, some spinach would work as well, cabbage, and then also some broccoli, which can also cope with a part shady spot. Rosie, that's not very helpful, is it, darling? Right where I need to plant, bless her. Right, just shove you over there, good girl. There we are, sit, good girl. Final planting in this area, the broccoli. Now I've had these multi-sown leeks ticking along since spring, so I think these will look good here, kind of fringing the path with their upright kind of form like that. And they need to go about 10 inches or 25 centimetres apart, each cluster that is. Sorry, Rosie. Sorry, darling. And here they are, all added to my plan. It's looking good. I love it when a plan comes together. What this garden needs is a little splash of colour. Now I've got a few options here. First up though are these beautiful lavender, which are just about coming into flower. one in each corner here for that pleasing symmetry. Great, and now some sweet alyssum for the back here, and then the piece de la résistance are these glorious French marigolds. Now these will help to deter pests, or rather attract the animals, the lacewings and the hoverflies and so on that will eat those kind of pests, and they'll look great along like a runway here, straight down the middle, and as they grow they'll make a real kind of impact as summer goes on. I have to say, I love the smell of marigolds. It reminds me of my childhood. It's, believe it or not, one of the first things I grew. Now a quick word on timing, because of course many of you will be in different parts of the world or starting your garden at a different time of year. Early summer, when I'm planting, is ideal for all manner of warm season crops. We've seen tomatoes, squashes, but also zucchini or courgettes, things like cucumbers, basil, that kind of thing. If you're planting your garden in late summer, then you might want to look at growing more of those leafy greens, so kale, chard, spinach of course, bok or pak choy, and just more salad leaves generally. Autumn is a great time to be planting garlic, overwintering onion sets, overwintering brassicas like say purple sprouting broccoli, and then in spring pretty much anything goes. Think peas, fava or broad beans, carrots, beets or beetroot, early potatoes, all manner of salads, brassica seedlings again. The world is your oyster. Every season has its own cast of stars, and there is always something you can be planting. And there is everything added into our plan. Now I dropped in a few more beets or beetroot that were multi-sown because I had a bit of a space of them over there. So that's completed our little garden plan here. And I have to say, it's looking pretty smart. The garden planner also offers suggestions for what to sow or plant each month based on where you are. Let me show you. If I go over here to the filters, I can choose crops to sow or plant in any particular month. So if I select June, for example, and the list here is filtered for what's suitable for planting at that time of year. The software also tailors all of your sowing, planting and harvesting dates to where you are by pulling in data from your nearest weather station. So if we now go over to the plant list, we can see that all of the crops have automatically been added to our planting calendar. If you'd like to try it out for yourself, well, good news, you can using our free trial. Just follow the link or scan the QR code over here to get started. No payment details required. I'll catch you next time.